Yeah, everybody keep it down. Sardis is sleeping. Now, Sardis has been sleeping a long time, but I'm not even sure we can wake Sardis up. No, that didn't work. He's out like a light. Yeah, it's going to be tough to wake up Sardis because Sardis doesn't know it's Sardis. Sardis thinks it's alive, the Lord says. But what does he say? But you are dead. Yeah, and the Sardis church is like Starbucks. They have a franchise in practically every town. I was thinking about starting the Church of Sardis San Angelo. Buy some failing church, remove the pews, and put in lazy boy rockers. That should attract them. Won't even be facing the front. This will be my first elders meeting because Sardis is dead. Imagine being told that by the Lord, your church is dead. Well, we want to talk about Sardis, but we also want to talk about the second sign. I want to make a little amendment to what I have said in the past about that sign. And if you're a regular viewer, I would stay to the end. I think you'll find that there's something at the end that you'll appreciate hearing. But if you're just passing through in a couple of moments, you'll go, well, he isn't going to tickle my ears. He's going to rebuke me. And then you'll leave, or you'll leave a nasty comment and then leave, but you'll leave. Before you do leave, I just want to point out something. If you don't know what that means, your end-time prophecy beliefs are no good. You cannot get to the truth about church age, times of the Gentiles, end-time prophecy without knowing that. If you don't know what that is, then you better stay and you better start figuring it out because your church isn't telling you the truth. If you do know what that is, if you know that that is war in heaven, you're tied for first as the richest person in the world. Now, the richest people on earth are those that have accepted the gospel. But inside that category, if you know that's war in heaven, you're tied for first as the richest person on the planet because you have information that makes you more knowledgeable than any prophecy teacher you've ever run across because they don't know the truth. That's why you can go to prophecy conferences all week long. No one will mention that. If you don't reject that as war in heaven, then you have turned back to listening to him at the Olivet Discourse, which is paramount. Paramount. Plus you are watching the signs. Now, occasionally I'll get a comment. I don't read all the comments because I don't need to have my back patted all the time, although I do need a little bit of it. I do. And it's really nice to get support. It really is. But I only need a little of it. Otherwise, it can be kind of dangerous. So I had to be careful with that. But it also just depresses me so much to see how stupid some people are when it comes to prophecy. And they're not stupid people. I'm not saying that. I should have said ignorant. They just are ignorant about prophecy. And they think they're so wise. They'll come on and go, I do not believe the rider on the white horse is the church. I believe it's an evil thing. And it's like, wait a second. Brother, sister, usually it's brother. Brother. If you're not listening to the Lord at the Olivet Discourse, it really doesn't matter who you think the white horse is. It really doesn't. You are majoring in the minors, as they say at that point. It's like your house is on fire and you're concerned about the mailbox. If you're not, it does not matter. It is not a sin to not be correct about the rider on the white horse. You could be wrong about the rider on the white horse. That's not going to be held against you. Not listening to him, I'm telling you more and more as I look at this and what he is saying, that is a dangerous, egregious sin on your part. We do not have the option to blow him off. When he tells you, be on guard, some translations say, take heed, he is underscoring what he's about to say. I have told you all things beforehand. You're supposed to believe that. You aren't supposed to try and find a way to rightly divide that out of your life. That is wrong. If you don't listen to him, it doesn't matter who you think the two witnesses are, who you think the white horse rider is, and on and on and on. You better get back to listening to him. Sardis isn't going to help you. You know, there are about 5 different Greek words in the New Testament for watch. It's amazing, really. I was kind of blown away by it. He tells Sardis twice in his letter to watch. That Greek word for watch, both times, he tells them, if you do not watch or wake up, that word can be watch or wake up. Either one's fine. If you don't watch/wake up, I will come upon you as a thief. You won't know the hour of my coming. He's not coming for them. He's coming upon them or against them if they don't wake up and watch. That's the same Greek word he used at the Olivet Discourse, what he said to the disciples, what I say to you, I say to all, watch or stay awake. Same Greek word. That is not a coincidence. He is telling Sardis, where did I tell you? Where did I tell you to watch and wake up? The Olivet Discourse, and you have blown me off. And that's a mistake. And I'm worried for everybody else who has gone along with this insanity that the church teaches, that it's okay to disregard the Olivet Discourse. My friends, it is not. Sardis thinks it's alive. It has reputation for being alive, but it's dead. I know a church just like that. It's a very popular church. I talked to a guy that goes to that church, great guy, did some work in my house, did the backsplash in my kitchen. Pro tip, always ask a woman before you buy backsplash for your kitchen. Fortunately, I asked my sister, and we came to a good decision. But anyway, he goes to that church, a great guy, and I brought up the rapture. His understanding of the rapture was like at an elementary school level. I mean, it was like, isn't that where the someday will come and get us? I go, yeah, but brother, it's coming soon. He had no idea. So this church that he goes to, that its reputation is so alive, they aren't teaching the most critical thing they can teach a saved person. He is coming soon because war in heaven is coming. I drove by that church the other day. They have a big sign out front, a little temporary sign that they've erected. We now are offering 3 services. They're growing. They're growing. But they're not giving the people what they need to hear. I felt like calling the front office and going, yeah, listen, I got a mesquite tree in my backyard. Could you send some people over to trim it? Sir, you've called a church. Yeah, I know, but I saw your sign out front. It says you're now offering tree services. No, sir, we're offering 3 services. Oh, so now you have 3 services where you won't tell your people that this is war in heaven. It's a shame. It is a colossal error to be not listening to the Lord. He's telling you all things beforehand. It is interesting. Remember when he walked into the temple and he read a section from the Old Testament and he stopped kind of like in the middle of the verse because that part of the verse he read is what he wanted them to hear, that it has been fulfilled in your hearing. He does something very similar in the Olivet Discourse. He is talking about future events that only begin with and end with the church age. And when he gets to the end, he's done. Even though we know by going to the book of Revelation, there are more events coming, but not for the church. The church age, the times of the Gentiles, is coming to an end, and that is paramount on his mind. It is critical that he gets that information to us. That's why when you open the book of Revelation, he is concerned about the church. Right before he returns, he is talking to those people on the earth right before he comes back. And he's concerned about them. And we've turned away from his teaching. And this is a giant fail on the part of the church. But ultimately, you as an individual are responsible. I've told you before, I'm not here to scare people because there's no reason to scare people. Listen to what he says and you're fine. Listen to what he says and you're fine. You'll know the kind of day and what is expected of you on that day. But if you're not, yeah, I think you're in trouble. When war in heaven happens and Satan is cast down, one of the first things we are told he does is the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. When I read that and really read that a few months ago, I was kind of shocked by it. I've mentioned this before because at that time, Jesus has already showed up for his church. So how is it possible that there are Christians still on the earth and he's going to go after them and he's about to bring up the beast out of the sea to do just that? And I was curious about that. Well, why are there so many Christians here on earth? People who identify, people who keep his commandments, place their faith in the Lord. I thought, well, maybe it's the people who saw him because everybody's going to see him. All the tribes of the earth are going to mourn, we learn in the Olivet Discourse. They're going to see him. That's why at the sixth seal, they're all hiding. They know what they're hiding from. And I thought, well, maybe a bunch of people saw him and saw the glory of the Lord and put their faith in him, but that doesn't appear to be the case because that word, the rest of her seed, that Greek word means this: left behind, the other part, the remnant. It was part of a bigger group, but that bigger group, part of that part went away. They remained. That should concern everyone who is not listening to the Lord. That's a word to the wise. If you're a wise virgin, you'll start listening. If you're foolish, you'll blow this teaching off. And you're in danger because you're not going to be paying attention to the signs. But it's more than that. You won't be paying attention to him, and that's the real problem. But there are signs. And we've talked about the second sign. And on earth, distress of nations with perplexity. And we're going with the proper way, we've learned, thanks to our viewer who speaks Greek, who said there is no reason for because to be in that verse. And the King James and New King James, I've been on them in the past, but I've got to pat them on the back now. They have this verse right. And on earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. Now, we're waiting for that to be fulfilled. We've already had the first sign fulfilled, the sign that involves sun, moon, and stars. The Revelation 12 sign fulfilled that. We're watching for this. And in the past, I've said, look, it could be figurative. In other words, it's not really technically going to be oceans and seas foaming up and waves roaring. It's an idiom for the nations are riled up. It's used that way in the Old Testament on occasion. So maybe it's a figurative, but it could be literal. And as one viewer pointed out, it could be referring to Isaiah 17 and the prophecy of Damascus. So we watch, and I've always said, when it happens, we'll know. There's a real good chance it is being fulfilled right now. We may be seeing the absolute fulfillment of that prophecy because the earth, right now, the nations are riled up. They are distressed all over the globe, if it is a globe, which I think it is, but I've been wrong about stuff in the past. But I'm going with globe. Nations are riled up everywhere. I've never seen anything like it. If you know a boomer, okay, a baby boomer, they've lived probably 7 decades. None of them have ever seen anything like this. This could be a fulfillment right now. I'm not saying it absolutely is, but I'm saying it might be. I'm telling you, there's never been anything like it. In this country, we are distressed and we're perplexed, and all over the world, people are wondering, why are their governments, why have they turned against them? Why do people feel like a stranger inside their own country? Farmers are protesting all over the world. People are upset. People don't know what is going on. The #1 podcast in the world is done by Joe Rogan. I don't listen to it. I'm not really interested with a secular person. I think he's clever. I think he's engaging in all of that, all of that. I understand why he's popular, but I'm not interested. But even he recently had on Aaron Rodgers. I heard about this on some alt-right news site that I go to, that he had on Aaron Rodgers. Neither one of them are Christian, but both of them realized that the earth is off the hinges. And Joe Rogan actually said, if there is Jesus, Jesus, if you're listening, we need you now. Even secular people recognize that something really evil is going on in the world. You could make a strong case that on earth right now there is distress of nations with perplexity. Now, maybe there'll be something else, and I'm gonna keep all options on the table. But if this is a fulfillment, then do not be surprised if we move directly to the third sign, which is the hour of his coming. People fainting with fear and foreboding as they see what is coming on the earth, because what they see coming on the earth, Satan and his angels. I say, let's keep and leave all options on the table, but let's be ready for any outcome and be ready for that third sign. That third sign is it. That third sign is go time. That's where you need to lose your life to save it. You need to say goodbye. You need to be ready to go. And the church is not preparing their congregations for that day. And I'm worried about them. The church is not going to be talking about this passage when you go there tomorrow, or when you go there, or if you go there. If they happen to talk about it, they are not going to make it relevant to you. They are not listening to him. He would not be warning us about Lot's wife if that weren't a trap potential for us. He's telling us it is a trap potential if you're not listening to him. It's not a trap. It's not a pitfall that you have to worry about if you're listening to him. But the church is not listening to him. And they give the flimsiest reason and justification they could even imagine. They say, oh, Paul told us a secret. He shared a mystery that had never been revealed before, the rapture of the church. That is not true. That is not what mystery means at all. And those theologians are smart enough and educated enough to know that. That is ridiculous. As a matter of fact, when Paul first brings up the rapture of the church, chronologically, it's in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. And what does he say? We declare this by the word of the Lord. That is the Greek word logos. It means word, it means statement, it means speech. He is saying the Lord himself taught this and said this. He is not telling you something new. He is confirming what the Lord taught at the Olivet Discourse. He is in lockstep with the Lord. He is not telling you something new. That would be a violation of what the Lord told us at the Olivet Discourse. Take heed, and you better. I have told you all things beforehand. Paul isn't telling us something new. He is pointing to the Lord. And the church says, disregard the Olivet Discourse. Disregard Luke 17. It's not for you. If you go along with them, this will be the biggest mistake you make as a Christian. All right, finally, a woman recently published a video in which she talked about that on the Great American Eclipse Part 2 Day, which is coming up on April 8th, she discovered that if you use the location of Jerusalem, the sky, looking into the sky, using software program, I'm using Stellarium, and look to the east, all the planets, all of the other planets are lined up in an up and down perpendicular vertical row, along with the sun and the moon. Now, there they are in a very narrow range. They're all in this very narrow range lined up on the day of that eclipse. It's very interesting. Now, you may not see Neptune there because I would have had to have dialed it in so close that the rest of it would not be visible on your screen. But you see those 4 red hash marks? That's where Neptune is. It's there as well. Poor Pluto. It's no longer considered a planet. But the ones that are considered planets are there along with the sun and the moon all lined up. What makes that interesting is, according to artificial intelligence, when queried about this event, how rare is this event, they tell us it hasn't happened in 32 million years. That's how rare it is. So the question is this a sign from God? Well, it very well might be. We'd be foolish not to at least consider it, and I will consider it, but you know what it means to me? How amazing the Revelation 12 sign is and was. That's a sign we do not have to question. It's a replication of something that comes right off the pages of the book of Revelation and is pointing to war in heaven. None of this will be discussed in the church you go to tomorrow. This is Saturday, February 24th. Another full moon day, another day we need to pay close attention to. There are very important days coming up. Right after the 7th anniversary of that Revelation 12 sign, the next full moon forms on the evening of October 16th. That could be important. All 3 of the fall feasts all fall after the 7th anniversary of the Revelation 12 sign. That could be important too. We live in extraordinary times, and there is no reason to be fearful if you are listening to him. Your church is not. But even in Sardis, the sleepy church, he says, there are those that are worthy to walk with him in white. It will come down to an individual decision on your part. I have faith in you, not like I have faith in the Lord, but I have faith in you. You will make the right decision and make sure the Lord's prophecy, the Lord's teaching on prophecy is your teaching on prophecy.